Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still TVC Breakfast, and our discussion now is on the efficiency of the Safe School initiative, which was launched in 2014 after the abduction of about 300 schoolgirls from Chibok, Borno State. Well, it also formed part of efforts to ensure children in conflict areas or affected by insecurity continue with their education. And to date, reports have that about 50,000 children displaced from Boko Haram have benefited from the program. And now the United Kingdom says it will continue its partnership with Nigeria on the Safe School initiative to create safe spaces within school environments. The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Richard Montgomery, says the support will also enable schools tackle vulnerabilities of transportation on roads from school to school and ensure schools have good security gates as well as guards. And joining us in the studio right now is the Chief Executive Officer at Dotted and Croxed Educational Consult, Sani Shehu Ahmed. Thank you for joining us
for having me
on TVC News, TVC Breakfast, I should say. All right, so talking about the Safe School initiative, from your assessment, how would you quantify the benefits that this project has brought since its establishment in 2014?
Recently, educators around the country gathered to review the first phase of the project. It was launched in 2021, supposed to be rolling, 3 years rolling. So it's ending 2023. The second phase is starting 2024 to 2026. We are yet to receive the report from the review. So I can't go so much in that, given that it hasn't been released to the public, how much progress the first phase of states has achieved. They classified the states into two. They said some states are very at-risk states, 16 of them. Then there is the other states. The very at-risk state, the federal capital is included among those. So making 19 other states that are classified as at-risk states, high-risk states. So, the very at-risk state, I don't have the data on ground now, but from what we can see, children are going back to school at those very at-risk state. The rate of the spate of attacks on school is diminishing. We are making some amount of progress, and especially with the core state, the most at-risk state, which is Borno State, we are making some amount of progress. Schools are being opened, children are going to school, but it still remains, the data we still have still remains that 75% of children who are in IDP camps are still not having access to learning.
Yeah, there is actually a school I belong to, the SPPG, which will say, in God we trust, every other person should bring data. And data is very, very important in all of this. So speaking to the numbers and all of the things that had actually happened, as regards to Save the Children, the Save the Children charity organization, made it known last year that since 2014, about 1,680 students and teachers have been kidnapped from schools majorly in the north. And if we look at last month, the country witnessed the abduction of 287 school children in the Kuriga in Chikum local government area of
That's
Kaduna
just
State.
one school.
Just one school. That on March 7, 2024, and another 15 children from the boarding school in Gidan, Bakuso village of the Gada Council area of Sokoto State. So do you share in the perception of those who actually think that there is some sort of abandonment of the Safe School initiative?
Safe School initiative has been faced with the challenge of funding. It's supposed to be partnership funding. Some funding is supposed to come from donors, from development partners, international bilateral institutions, and some funding is supposed to come from state government. That is where the least funding is coming. The least access to funding is presently. Many states has their priorities, and probably this is not part of the priority on their budget list. They are probably thinking of surviving first before learning. Probably paying salaries, having people have money to feed is ahead of having children learn safely in schools. So they just resort to closing the schools altogether, and we're waiting for things to come back to normal. So I would say funding. Funding has been why interest in the Safe School initiative is waning. Funding has not been exactly as envisaged from the planning stage.
Sorry to butt in, Kemi, but right. If you talk about funding, they said the exact amount raised so far for the initiative is not yet known, but you may want to recall that in August 2014, the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Intervention raised about 80 billion naira, and in the same year received a donation of $1.5 million from Norway, $1 million from African Development Bank, $50,000 from the AFDB president, and €1 million from the British government. So in 2015, Switzerland and the US pulled in $8 and $2 million respectively, as well as Qatar $2 million, and the Nigerian business community $10 million. So do you feel that there is need to prove? Because when you say there is not enough funding, this is huge, humongous amount of money that had been poured into this. And I know that the Senate had actually, tried to probe into, this issue of funding and all of that. How much transparency do you think had gone into, the expeditious use of this funding?
According to the implementation plans, we have high figures on things that the expenditure is supposed to go on. Let's say, for example, to equip national response centers in states, it's called national response centers for attacks on education. For 2023, they are looking to spend 225 million naira on that. 2024, another 214 million naira. And 2025, 203 million naira. That's just one item on the expenditure budget. The budget for this initiative is huge. So what I would implore us to do, that is citizens, civil societies, concerned people, is ask for accountability and transparency in all of this. Let us sit, let those in charge know that we are so much interested in getting the state of progress, this much funding from international donors. When we get money from international bodies, it's not free. They expect some things from us in return. If they don't expect anything at all, they expect results. Because when one side of the world sneezes, every other side of the world catches some amount of cold. It might just vary in how much cold they catch. Nigeria is so delicate to the world population that Nigeria must not break. The population of Nigeria, if we spill into the world, there will be a refugee crisis. So every one of us is concerned. Let me don't even say concerned. Every one of us is concerned, because what happens in our backyard eventually gets into our room. Every one of us should sit down and let the people in charge know that we want access to how this money is being spent and how much progress has been made, and from all the people that are supposed to donate, who has given, who has not given. Who has not given, let him tell us why not.
And, amidst this funding concerns, which, many people, including yourself, sharing, the British government has also promised, more support, saying that there are a lot of similarities in the way Nigeria is tackling terror. And
there are a lot of...
There are similarities in the way Nigeria is, fighting terror, and in the UK as well. But, this year is symbolic because it's 10 years now looking at the abduction of, the Chibok girls, and here we are, a number of them are still in captivity. Ibrahim, earlier on was reading out some figures, even current statistics of, school kidnappings that we still have on record, even as at 2024. So as an observer, you're also a stakeholder in the educational system. This talk about security, it's not just confined to the north anymore, or the northeast anymore. What are your thoughts really on how far we have come in ensuring safe schools?
The time between the incident that triggered the initiative and now is 10 years. But the time when this initiative come into play is 2021. Between that time, between 2014 and 2015, there are other progress that came up, like the Safe School Declaration was in 2015. President Buhari got to sign on this initiative in 2019. a policy plan was developed and launched in 2021. It was after the launching of that development of the policy plan, that was when this concerted effort into financing actually came about. So governance take processes of developing policy before implementing solutions, so that things will not be done haphazardly. So we can have a road plan to what we want to achieve, and the timelines and the metrics to which we will measure how much progress we've made. So I would say it's not, the Safe School Initiative has not been on for 10 years. It has been, the plan was rolled out 2021. So let's start measuring 2021 rather than.
But in terms of lessons that we have learned since the 2014 mass abduction case in schools that, precipitated the launch of the Safe School Initiative, have we learned sufficient lessons yet? I know you've spoken about a 3-year, observatory plan. Yes, we are in the 2024 to 2026. Yes. But, from the periods that have occurred under review, have we moved on? How have we moved on? How have we fared in learning lessons? That's the question.
Going by the events that we are seeing, it doesn't seem like we've put to use whatever is it we've learned. The number of children that were abducted in 2014, if we calculate this year, we must have something very close to that number. So even if we learn the lessons, have we put into use, have we gotten results? It's not the process, it's the result that matters. Children whose lives were cut short, or who are suffering the after effect trauma of all these, are not concerned about what we are doing. They are concerned about, can they go back to school? If they are not going back to school, can they stay home and still be safe? Okay, if they stay home and not learn, how would their future be like?
Some even say they don't want to go back to school.
Some don't want to go back to school. Seeing that kind of trauma, one just have to wait. Can I just survive on my farm and let the future sort out itself? So I would say, I don't know how much we've learned, but I know we've not put whatever we've learned into use. The event does not support that we've put it into use.
That's right. So with a take-off fund of 3.2 billion naira, half of the amount of the project that which came from the private sector. Now we are seeing the collaboration of UK. We're saying that they want to partner with the government because in 2014, working with Gordon Brown, that's the former British Prime Minister, and the United Nations Special Envoy for Global Education, the Global Business Coalition for Education, as well as World at School, and here we are, several years after. You're saying that we should start looking at it from 2021. What difference would the collaboration with the UK government, what would they do differently this time around?
The UK government are one of the development partners on this initiative. It is not as if they call the pace. We have several other nations and international development partners, bilateral institutions. It is still up to us to decide how we want it to go. The best they can do is advisory and funding. So it's still up to us to know what we want and how we want to achieve it.
In knowing what we want to do, because other analysts have actually seen it as, why do we have the Ministry of Finance saying to this initiative, why not the Ministry of Education, who can actually draft policy framework, who understands the terrain of education and what the demands of education? Do you also buy into that criticism?
Before I worked with government ministries of education and then work with wider stakeholders in education, I thought this way too. But having to sign memorandum of understanding in implementing programs with educational authorities and dealing with people in governance, I saw things differently.
How so?
The policymakers probably do not trust the structure of that ministry to handle that large sum of money.
You mean the education ministry?
Yeah. to handle that large sum of money and do it right. There are so much intrigues in political play and governance that it's those of us that have to do with them that when we come out, we can't reel out everything.
But you should be able to defend it. Or okay, at least let us get to your point. So you are saying now that it's best suited or it's best cited in the Ministry of Finance as against education.
They go to their round table and discuss who is best to handle the financing of that initiative.
Even though education is still involved, Ministry of Education is still involved.
Now, as an expert, I would have preferred education handle the policy.
Right.
Ministry of Finance and Planning handling the fund.
Finance.
But the way things are now, everything is domiciled with Ministry of Finance.
Which is an aberration, you think?
Is that what you say? Is that what you're saying? Okay. But you said as an insider somewhat, you have come to understand. Or
I have come to understand that sometimes things might not work the way it's supposed to work, because over the years there have been history, there have been precedents, or as things stand, the competence or the needed competence and let me call leadership. The needed leadership to get that things done is not in that room where it's supposed to be. Meanwhile, some other room has it. Let's go and keep this particular item in the room where the leadership exists. That's what happens why policies and programs used to be domiciled in a ministry where their core mandate is not around that initiative. That was why I see dealing with people on the inside.
Okay, and then the roles of the states and local government. Okay. There is also some concern that maybe they are not taking enough ownership of the project. We've seen the international angle, their commitments even beyond financing. But where states are concerned, okay, we were in the papers, we are saying that a state in the east, I think Imo State, has also launched the Safe School Initiative just to forestall and ensure safety in the schools. But the issue around, ownership, involvement, level of involvement, how satisfactory is it from your own assessment?
Judging from the very high-risk state, not satisfactory. The success of this program is dependent on community ownership. Mm. So community policing needs to be strengthened.
We don't even have it yet.
We don't even have it yet. It's still in the policy pipeline. But before there is a policy stance on it, let's have community policing strengthened. And community policing is just the kinetic aspect of this, the force aspect of this. There are other non-kinetic aspects of this initiative. The one that does not involve force. The one that involves intelligence gathering, installing gadgets in the schools, so such that if anything would happen, and then the response centers. The response centers, and then strengthening community leaders, the children themselves and teachers. The education authorities of states and local government, do they have teachers that are designated as the safe school, this SSI teacher in that school? Do they have school-based management committee and the other stakeholders? Do they have this SSI on table, and do they have ownership of it in their... Many local and state governments still find this as something distant, something they discuss on the international and national level. Mm. They have not domesticated it yet. So I would say not satisfactory.
But under our present, structure of governance, okay, yes, the federal government has said it is now open to, a form of enforcement around, the state police to give it a form of life, even though we are yet to get, more concrete, information, or we are yet to get to the implementation stage. Under the current structure, fiscal and otherwise structure that we have, do the states have it in them? The local government, the communities, do they have it in them to also play their roles well in ensuring the progress of this Safe School initiative?
In some states of the Federation where I've been, I have seen them having a semblance of community policing. Lagos has...
And it's working.
And it's working. Lagos has the LNSC, Lagos Neighborhood Watch. I saw in Ogun State School, I saw there is one So Safe Corps that was supposed to work in safeguarding the school, the children. So many states have a semblance of this. What they have not just done is a concerted plan to draft them into the policy framework of the School Safe Initiative. Yeah. School Safe Initiative is not just about force. There is that area of let every school first be fenced. So that access...
It's basic, actually.
Basic. So that access to school can be controlled. You can't just get into school without somebody asking who you are. And if you should jump fence, there should be some camera that triggers an alarm. And when the alarm is triggered, there should be a response center, which according to the Safe School Initiative has to have a local government and state government center. If something happens in state government, there is one particular center not far from anywhere in that local government where the kinetic aspect of this initiative swing into play and arrest the situation. But so that is what I can say about that architecture. It differs from state to state. Indeed. But many states definitely has some semblance of community policing. And the southwestern states in Nigeria has
their own security
network. So there is a semblance of it in many states of the Federation. But the very high-risk states are where we are expecting the most effort from. Because they started
in those areas.
Manifested, yeah.
But, and we can't continue this forever. It's putting a strain on our budget.
Is even putting a strain, or do you think it's putting a strain on the security architecture? Yes. Do they have it?
It's spreading us.
Can they really man all the schools?
So it's putting a strain on our budget, not allowing us fund on some other things that should make us develop. We are not talking about learning now. We are talking about creating space for learning. When do we start the actual learning? When do we want to start growing?
Well, some said that no matter what we do, no matter what we do, that we probably will not get the result if we don't address the underlying factors that are actually causing this insecurity. Because if poverty is still endemic, you still definitely have people who will be attacking others, who will be seeking education. So in addressing these challenges headlong, do you feel that there is need to make efforts in addressing the socioeconomic factors that contribute to vulnerabilities in this school environment, school environment such as the poverty which I mentioned earlier and inadequate infrastructure in the rural areas?
That's the fourth leg of this table. Tackling the underlying...
When you say the fourth leg...
The first one is the...
No, sorry. When you say the fourth leg, are you saying that it's not sacrosanct?
No, it is. I mean, there are four themes to SSI. Right. The first one is the kinetic measures, those measures to combat...
Which we've been doing.
The second one is the non-kinetic measures, the ones that got to do with building fence around the school, installing gadgets, forming committees, having people in charge of the Safe School Initiative at the local government in every school. Yeah. That the non-kinetic measure is the third. The fourth is in the policy, the planning, having all stakeholders on board. Then the fourth and the final one is tackling the root cause of all this. So as we are doing that first thing, with time, all these, the need for this...
Is it a step-by-step thing? Is it something that they have to do?
It's all going at the same time.
Right.
It's going on at the same time.
So, poverty, so tackling poverty, is it working? Poverty alleviation, poverty eradication. Of course, there are other concerns.
We had scandal rocking the Ministry of
Humanitarian Affairs. Right. There is also the high and worrying in this on unemployment. As in the statistics always released by the MBS, inequalities and all of that. How big a problem do you see it from your reader?
In development, there is this concept we call wicked problems. The issue of security in Nigeria is dependent on poverty, and poverty in Nigeria is a wicked problem. It's multifaceted and multidimensional. There is the religious fundamental aspect of it, contributing. Many people in Nigeria still think poverty is a virtue. They still deodorize poverty due to culture or religious belief. See, you know how much need to be put into that. It's not giving such kind of person money. It's working on their mindset. So it's multidimensional. Then our constitution too says social welfare is supposed to be an aspect of local government where local government tackles, but local government is not working. How about we start from making local government work? If local government work, then that is when social welfare can work. But having state social register, a state government wanting to do social welfare, having a social register, it might not work. Local government is the closest to the people. Let's make local government work. If local government work, social welfare will work. Indeed. If social welfare work, we can beat poverty goodbye. So let's make local government work. Let state governments release their chokehold on local government. If that local government structure should work as we plan it in how we will federate as a nation, all this can disappear. It's time.
All right, a fine place to rest our conversation. Sani Shehu Ahmed, thank you very much for speaking to us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having been on the show.
Right.